This is Season 5 of Flute Unscripted. Hi, I'm your host, Caity Massoud, and I sit down with a new artist every week and share their stories with you. This podcast is brought to you by Flute Center of New York, the marketplace for flutes. Join us, subscribe, rate, and review us. Use this podcast promo code LISTEN for some special perks. Get $50 off any flute or accessory purchase of $4.99 or more, and 10% off any sheet music order, including free shipping on all orders over $50. Once again, that's code LISTEN. Mindy Kaufman joined the New York Philharmonic after winning her audition for the flute and solo piccolo chair in 1979 at the age of 22. Her audition in the final round was full of snafus that could have thrown her off, but Mindy relied on the hard work she'd put into her preparation and rolled with the punches, and she ended up winning. Since then, she's performed a slew of concerts and chamber concerts with the Phil, recorded a solo album, recorded piccolo concerti, and freelanced as a film score musician. She lives a multifaceted life outside of the flute world as well. It was fascinating to learn about Mindy's adventures climbing in Nepal, being an avid skier, riding her bike. In reference to all the different repertoire and flutes she gets to play, Mindy said, "I think that being a musician, you almost have to like doing everything." And she really does seem to do everything, both on and off the stage. Well, Mindy, thank you for joining me today. I know you're not so close to us anymore as you used to be at our old location, and you're at Lincoln Center all the time because of rehearsal, so we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's only a few more subway stops.
Yeah, not so bad.
Still pretty close.
Yeah. So you're spending a lot of time rehearsing and performing with the Phil. You've had your position with them since 1979 after you graduated from Eastman with your bachelor's. And I read a really funny story about your audition at the Phil and how that all happened with your bus ride. Can you share a little bit about that with our listeners?
Sure. Well, of course, when I took the audition, I was 22. I had just turned 22. I didn't think I was going to get into the Philharmonic, but I wanted to make the finals. That was my big goal was to make the finals. And I worked really hard. I worked as hard as if I was going to win it, but I didn't expect to win it. So then when I made the finals, I was thinking,
like a panic that set in almost. Like
no, but I realized, oh, I might get the job. Yeah. I mean, I could do better than just getting into the finals. I might actually be able to win it. Mm-hmm. And so there was only a week between the prelims and the finals. And they didn't use a screen when I auditioned. So when I came in for the prelims, it was essentially in the locker room I use now. It's a very heavily carpeted room, so it was a little deader. And I opened the door, and I guess I'm veering off and giving you more story than you asked for. No, I love this
part. No, this is good. These are the details.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that happened, I started playing. The first thing I played was the Vivaldi A minor piccolo concerto, and then the second movement, and everybody said, "Wow, that sounds amazing." You usually don't get feedback like that, especially if there's a screen. And then everything I played, they kept asking me to play them a second time because somebody said, "Well, I can't believe you just played that." So, I mean, you're the first person today that got that right today. So they made me play everything twice. Then I got to Daphnis, that nasty little passage with your pinky key. It's in G sharp minor. Mm-hmm. And I played it, and I looked at them, and I said, "I'm not going to play that again." So I was kind of a nervy little 22-year-old.
You were like, "I nailed it. You got it."
Yeah, I got it once.
Yeah,
that's enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then now I'm having a pretty good feeling about this.
Yeah.
Like, I could really win this job. And the finals were the next week, and the night before, I was planning to fly out the night before, and from Rochester where I was playing. And the night before, there was one of Rochester's typical blizzards, which closed the airport and the trains. And so one of my friends said, well, why don't you take the bus that left at midnight? So I got on the bus and the Greyhound. And this is 1979. The bus, I don't know what it's like now, but, you know, people smoked on the bus.
Yeah.
And people that are taking a midnight bus to New York City.
Maybe a seedy crowd.
Kind of seedy and dark. It's dark on the
Yeah.
bus. And then every hour and a half, the lights come on because they're at Syracuse and Binghamton and Ithaca and whatever, you know, they're going down the thruway, and every hour and a half, so the lights come on for the next stop. So I didn't get any sleep by the time I got in at 8 a.m, which it ran perfectly on time, and I was there by 8, and the audition started at 10. So, but I was so tired that it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I couldn't possibly have been nervous.
Mm-hmm. Because you're just so exhausted.
So tired.
Yeah.
There was no adrenaline.
Yeah.
I was just, you know, playing like on... But you know, if I hadn't prepared super well, if I didn't know the music, if I didn't know the material, I would have just made lots of mistakes.
Right.
But I knew it so well. So not having any sleep just kind of calmed me down a little bit and kept me from... I had no adrenaline to come into the picture, so it wasn't shaky or anything.
Have you had to grapple a little bit with performance anxiety? Okay. How so?
Well, I have it. So
how have you kind of come to terms with it, or made it work for you?
I don't know, just doing it enough, and that helps.
Well, that's very the bus ride for most would be unlucky, but for you it turned out to be a good thing that happened. When you finally did win the job and it set in that it was yours, did it feel surreal at the moment? And
I was pretty excited at the... well, they didn't tell me right away because there was somebody else playing with the orchestra that had to play the concert that was at 2:00 that day. They were both on Fridays, so it was a Friday. And so they didn't want to tell me until after the concert. So I flew back then, and the airport was open. And I flew back to Rochester, and I had a concert that night with the Rochester Philharmonic, which I got there in time to play, I guess. It's sort of my memory
of it. It's like a whirlwind of a weekend.
Crazy. How did I do that?
I don't know.
You know, times were different. You didn't have airport security. You didn't have delays getting to, you know, you could just run to the airport and get on the plane. So things were a little different. I guess I remember, I think it was a run-out concert, and there was a payphone, and Jimmy Chambers, the personnel manager, told me to call him when I got there. So I think I called him from the concert, and my teacher, Bonnie Boyd, was the first flute player. She was playing. Mm-hmm. And who else was there at the time? Oh, I guess it was Bonnie and me and somebody else who Jan Angus must have been there, I think. Because Leon Bisey used to play in Rochester. Yeah. So that for 2 years, it was Bonnie and Leon and myself.
Oh, wow. That must have been really special.
Can you imagine? What kind of experience is that for a 19-year-old to play between those two players?
What was your big takeaway from your time with them?
I learned a lot about... It was just interesting because I played second most of the time. Mm-hmm. And Leon played piccolo and Bonnie played first. So... I just learned a lot about being free, you know, being a little more free and in playing and not so tied to the rules, kind of. You know,
interesting.
Taking chances and things like that. And I mean, they both played great. And Leon sometimes played first, and I played second to her also. And it was just a great experience. So I mean, they were a foot taller than me. When we stood up, and it was like Bonnie's 6 feet, I'm 5'3", Leon's almost 6 feet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Leon is she's doing great things too with her students down at Rice.
Yeah,
too.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you keep in touch with her at all?
A little bit. Yeah.
She's very lovely too, and very warm. So you were talking about then you got the call.
Yeah.
Or you made the call.
I made the call from a payphone.
Yeah.
And then my teacher and I, Bonnie and I, are just like, what? You know, we're screaming and everything. So, yeah.
Did you have to finish out school? And then...
I was done with school.
Oh, okay.
I had finished about a half a year before that. I finished my bachelor's and I wasn't doing a master's. So I
How
barely...
come did you...
Well, I mean, I was in the Rochester Philharmonic starting my junior year.
Yeah.
So I hardly had time to go to school.
Yeah.
And then after my senior year, I won Leon's job, which was the full-time position in RPO. The one I had before was a per service, but it was almost a full-time position, except you didn't get the benefits.
Right.
But I played almost all the time. And so then when I got the job, most people when they get a job don't continue going to school. I mean, I wish I had. There were lots of things that I wish I had in my life in some ways that I didn't have, but I guess it worked out. And you can't time these things, and if you get a job, you take it. And but I guess what I in some ways I wish I had studied a little bit more. I mean, I continued playing for people all the time, and still feel like I have room to grow. So that's kind of nice if you're constantly searching for different solutions, and not just, I think it's important to not just rely on the way you always played this piece, so that's the way you're always going to play it. I think it's important to have a fresh look at things all the time, whether it's when you're looking at something again or whether you're on stage and some kind of inspiration pops into your mind. It's okay to do it. I think it's okay to take chances. And I've gotten to hear what is great about what I do is that I hear a lot of people taking chances, and that is, it makes you realize that it's okay to do that, and it's okay to miss things too.
Right.
So, because sometimes you do miss things. And not everything works out, but I think it's okay to get yourself out of just playing perfectly or just playing the way
I wonder if you've ever had to give it's interesting you were saying you almost wish you did go back for a little bit of school. I wonder if you've ever had to give anybody advice about that, any students that you've had, because I know a lot of people, especially nowadays, that are young, that go through school and then win a job. Sometimes they do leave the job and decide to go back and do school and then audition all over again later.
That's true.
It's a tough decision.
I just couldn't do that. But, like, for example, I never studied Baroque flute. And, of course, the performance practice from the time I was in school to now has changed so much. And things have come around from playing Baroque music in a romantic way. But I would have loved to have done, studied Baroque flute. Or what is it called? Transverse flute, and also the styles. And I didn't do that. It wasn't really on my radar. So that's one thing. So I read a lot, and
you're like your own teacher now with
that
all
way.
That.
So I try to learn from other people.
I
was thinking of calling a former student of mine who is a Baroque specialist and taking a lesson from her.
There you go. That works. You've also, in the fill, you were playing alongside Baker a little bit. You didn't study with him in school, but did you feel like you got a sort of education just by sitting alongside of him and being colleagues? Oh,
absolutely. And I always loved his playing. When I was in high school and college, I used to listen to LPs of, famous LPs of his, the Nielsen Concerto. And so I knew his playing, and I could recognize his playing, when you listen on the radio. At that time we used to listen to the radio. So I'd hear an orchestra, and you could recognize an orchestra. I could recognize them by their flute player most of the time.
It's a good party trick.
Exactly. So I really liked his playing, and there were things that I always wanted to sound like. So, like, he had a beautiful sound, and the vibrato, and just his approach to playing. It wasn't forced, it wasn't loud, it wasn't ugly, and I always really liked that kind of sound. But then I did depart in other ways from that. When I was young, of course, I'd be lucky to play like that. But then later on, I think it's okay to admire those things and then move in different directions.
And develop your own opinions.
And when I was growing up, by the way, my teacher, who I adored when I was in junior high and high school, her name was Margaret Jackson. And she didn't want to play for me. She didn't play for me very much and she was terrific, but she didn't want me to copy her. She wanted me to develop my own style of playing, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like to do that for your own students?
I must say that I don't do that as much for my own students. Just sometimes for expediency, I do end up playing something.
Yeah. It is easier sometimes to just catch on to hear how something sounds and develop your ears.
But I do think it's important not to play just to show off, you know,
right.
and that it's important to make a point.
True.
My other teacher at Eastman, Wally, I mean, I've had several teachers, but Wally...
you studied with Wally Kajala, yeah.
He didn't play a lot, but he played to make a point, or to show me a dynamic that or something like that. If I to play softly or to do something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember him playing all that much, so that's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because some teachers are more into copying and imitation, and I actually think that's really important too.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a balance between the two. It's
yeah, for
world.
sure. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I try to explain it, but if somebody is not understanding or looking what I'm getting at, then I just end up playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's easier for them to hear certain things like articulations or the length of things and things like that. Sometimes that's just easier to hear it.
Yeah.
But I do think sometimes people get very intellectual about things, and instead of just listening to it and taking it in, and then taking it that way instead of like if you start looking too much at, well, I should play this short and this long and this one higher and this one lower, and you have too many instructions in there.
Yeah.
So I don't like to have a lot of instructions.
And then your part becomes riddled with all sorts of little...
Yeah, exactly.
And,
I happen to like my parts fairly clean.
Yeah.
And actually, when I get an orchestra part, if it's got a lot of stuff, I take the eraser out to it. It's like my apartment. I kind of need a clean apartment, uncluttered. Mm-hmm. And if I see a cluttered part, it's like my mind is cluttered.
Yeah, it's too busy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I try to remember those things instead of writing them all down.
Right. Mindy's been on the road with the New York Phil on its tours around the world, and it has exposed her to places she might not have otherwise explored. Mindy is all about getting outside of her comfort zone and taking risks, something that she lives by in her life and in her music. She enjoys chamber music for that reason, for the ability to make musical decisions and take more chances. It's something she likes to also listen for in auditions and in other musicians' performances. Mindy shared with me a little bit about the latest New York Phil flute auditions and what she likes to see in a colleague. With the Phil, you've been able to travel to a lot of places on tour, a lot of remote locations too, not often visited by a lot of people. And when you go on tour, do you notice a shift in the way that you play because of the way the orchestra is playing for a certain audience? Like, do you get different feedback from different people in different countries, and do you feel like you all react to that differently? A little bit,
yeah. But just a little bit.
Yeah, not too much.
Not too much. And also because of where I am, I'm sitting halfway back. Right. So my contact with the audience is not the same as people that are sitting on the outside.
Yep. Do you have any memories that kind of stick out of any special places you've been to with them? Well,
we went to North Korea. Yeah. And that was a pretty interesting concert because the people, there's a video, you can watch the videos of it, but the audience, they're very unemotional and they're not showing any emotion. And then at the very end, because we're still at war, we're still enemies. Yeah. We never signed a treaty to end the war. So at the end of the concert, we had prepared this piece, Our Iran, and it's a Korean folk tune that both North and South Koreans know. Everybody knows it. And when we played that, you can see people in the audience were crying.
That's really special.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That is a special memory.
Yeah. I'm going to cry.
I have tissues if you need. Because you do travel a lot and tour a lot, do Do you think that affects your personal life, how much you like to travel? Do you like to stay put then when you don't have to go out, or do you still like to kind of venture
I don't
out?
like to travel that much. So I'm not a great solo traveler, actually.
Oh.
But, I'm taking a sabbatical next year, starting in September for 5 months. And one of the places I'm going to go is Nepal, which is why I have these hiking boots in. And I just had to buy a new pair, and I'm breaking them in. But a couple months before. But anyway, I've only traveled with the orchestra to really big cities, and I've done a lot of things in the Rockies and on bike trips and things like that are more rural. But it'll be kind of nice to have some time to do my own short trips, maybe.
Yeah.
Nothing too well. That one's a little crazy, but
Right.
But nothing aside from that one. Nothing too off the wall.
But you still are going to practice your flute.
I am.
Yeah,
I'm bringing one with
Yeah.
me. I have to find a cheap flute.
Do you ever take extended breaks from practicing, or do you like to stick with it?
I used to take, we have a month or 6 weeks vacation in the summer, and I used to take a month off or something, but it was so weird to come back to it. So it's just better for me to play a little bit, even if it's every other day or something, rather than to take off a long period of time.
Yeah. It also seems like, when reading a little bit more about you, your hobbies outside of playing the flute tend to be very athletic and very physical or outdoorsy. Is this a conscious decision that you've kind of made to counteract all the sitting in a hall that you do, or is it just a natural part of you that you've always kind of been into that kind of stuff?
Well, I always liked cycling. I don't cycle anymore because I broke my elbow.
Oh,
so that's the end for me.
Yeah.
I can't break anything else.
No.
But I did love cycling, and I got to see a lot of really neat places on a bike. I love the concept of cycling, and even just sort of like the way the Dutch cycle everywhere.
Yeah.
And I like that. I also... I ski. I've been skiing since I was a teenager, so that was just always. I didn't ski a lot, but I did ski, so I have kept that up, and luckily I haven't stopped, because I used to ice skate and I've stopped, and now I'm scared to go on ice skates. So
are you scared of hurting yourself, with your elbow?
I am. Yeah.
What happened when you broke your elbow? Did you have to take a break then?
Yeah, I was out for 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, so
especially if you were saying before you like to practice a little bit every day, then you're out of commission for a while.
Yeah, and it wasn't going very well, so I'm actually very lucky that things finally got set straight.
Oh, did you have some residual issues?
Well, it didn't heal the way it was supposed to, so I had to have a couple of surgeries, and anyway.
That's scary.
Well, I didn't actually know if I was going to be able to play again.
Did you ever have to... Did you have that moment where you think, what would I do if I can't play?
Oh, yeah. I was having big moments like that.
Yeah.
Because I'd had... Well, I probably shouldn't get into that.
Yeah, no, this
here.
is good stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just didn't heal right, and then my bone was growing into the nerve and causing nerve damage, so I couldn't even... I'd had nerve damage in my hand.
Yeah.
But once he moved the nerve and then took the bone out, but it took a while, and then everything came back, so I was very lucky.
Yeah.
So but there was a time when I couldn't use my right hand for anything for about 3 months.
Wow. More
than that, 4 months. 3 months. Sorry. I don't know, 2 months. Maybe it was 3 months. Something until the fourth surgery. Mm-hmm. Things were just getting worse and worse and worse, and so it wasn't until after that one that I started healing, and that the numbness was going away.
Yeah.
That was in my hand. So, but yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't thinking about playing so much because I wasn't even functioning.
Right.
I wasn't even able to do the things that you...
Everyday things.
Like washing your hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So putting makeup on with your right arm, I couldn't do any of that. So I was very lucky that I got to come back to play again.
Yeah.
And then I came back. I mean, my hand was still slightly numb because the numbness was receding. I still couldn't quite navigate my pinky yet because it goes from the thumb to the pinky, I mean, I could navigate it, but it was okay. But then what happened? I guess I decided I was coming back, and I couldn't quite play piccolo because I couldn't bend my arm enough to play it. And Robert, I think Robert just said, well, just come back and play whatever you can play. So I came back. I played second actually, and it was just, and I think just the act of doing that got me going again. And then the following week I played first because nobody was around. And on the New World Symphony, and I was I was just coming back from not having played for a while.
Right.
But it got me back in shape pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, by that point I was practicing around an hour, so I was able to practice by that point. And I was Are
you into meditation as well?
I used to meditate. I must say it's been I have my bench and a pillow, but I haven't sat on it for a while. But it was a great concept. It actually helped me win auditions and get over nerves. And
I was going to ask you how it helped you.
It helped me because it helped me focus on, or not focus on.
Yeah, right.
Being worried.
Right.
Help me just help me just be in the moment and focus on being in the moment instead of, oh my God, here it is, it's coming up, oh God, I don't know if I can play it. So, when you meditate, you have to wipe out all your thoughts and you just count. I did it by counting to 10, counting every exhalation. So, 1, 2, and then you get to 10. And if you're sort of daydreaming, you go 11, 12, and you realize, you go back to 1 again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I learned. That was the kind of meditation I was doing.
You've also appeared as a soloist a number of times under Zubin Mehta, Caity Massoud, and Lauren Meisel. What is it like to step out in front of the orchestra and be kind of the star of the show when you're used to being kind of further back in the section?
It was actually pretty fun. I mean, those were things, of course, I spent probably most of the year preparing for those things and did practice performances with other orchestras, amateur orchestras,
right.
or whoever else would have me. So, but just played a lot so that I was really, really prepared. And then the fun thing was that actually the Philharmonic was the best orchestra that I played with. So it was so much easier in some ways to play with the Philharmonic because the intonation and the conductor was great and all those things. So it just made it very easy. But you only get about not even half of a rehearsal and then half of another rehearsal. Some of us don't get a lot of time. So there's no time for you to get comfortable. You have to work on all of that stuff way beforehand.
Sure. In your job, you get to play a lot of different kinds of flutes. So C flute, piccolo, alto. They have a lot of solos, a lot of beautiful parts in orchestral repertoire. Does this possibility of playing a lot of different auxiliary instruments kind of keep the rep fresh for you when other people might say, like, oh, not this one again? Because you switch sometimes between the parts. So it's nice maybe I'll play on alto this time.
It is nice to play different pieces instead of the same pieces all the time.
Yeah.
We got a bass flute too. Didn't we get it from here?
Well, I certainly hope so, since it would be wrong if you didn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Phil got it for us.
Yeah. Have you played on that yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I would think it keeps the repertoire fresh too, because maybe you play piccolo one season on that one piece, and the next season you're playing second flute on it. So it gives you different perspective.
It does, yeah. But people ask me, well, how do you stay in shape on everything? They want to know if there's some secret, and I am sorry to say that there isn't really a secret for going back and forth between both of them. I just practice both of them.
Yeah. You've also filled in and subbed with the Milwaukee Symphony's principal flute. And when the Phil's having this current position they just filled that was open, you filled in a lot there as well. And lots of different flutists were coming in as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people that are filling in or subbing on a shorter term and how they can adapt more quickly into a section and kind of blend seamlessly when they don't have a lot of time?
I think there were certain things that are that maybe most people know it, but not everybody knows it. Like sitting with your legs crossed and playing is just not okay. And I have seen people do that, and it just doesn't look good. It looks kind of casual.
Yeah.
Actually, and while we're on that subject, I have to say, maybe it's a new generation of people, but I think that if you're a sub and you're coming into play, or even a new member, I think that you should dress professionally.
Yeah.
And I think it gives an impression, and I think that I know times are more casual now, but I still think it gives a nice impression.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't.
You don't have to be super dressed up, but just I wouldn't wear cut off shorts and something that looks like you're going to the beach.
Yeah.
And I have seen that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to present a nice picture, a nice professional picture. Mm-hmm. And as far as playing, but most people are super well prepared. I can't even think of an instance where somebody hasn't come in and everybody studies scores now.
Yeah.
It's so available. So everybody is prepared, which is great. Everybody gets their music out.
Yeah. I'm dying to know, because I've been in the position where I prepare, I'm filling in with an orchestra, and you're a little bit nervous because it's your first time with them, and you want to make sure that you're doing everything right, and you're counting, and everything is going to plan, but you like miss an entrance on a part that you're supposed to come in just because you are. It's natural, right? Is the rest of the group kind of understanding, the rest of the section, like they're coming in, so it's understandable and there's no judgment, or is it like any mistake is a
No, it's okay. Okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Because I've done it and then I freak out like, oh my God, I should have. That's not okay. I knew that was wrong, and the wrong entrance, and you feel totally embarrassed.
Yeah, I know.
And especially with the fill, I can imagine if you're subbing and you're filling in, there's a lot of pressure.
It happens.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. That's comforting.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That was a personal question for me. You also have played a lot on film scores.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in that kind of work, and do you like doing that because it's a departure from your...
Somebody recommended me for it a long time ago, and so I was working for this one guy who has since passed away, but I did a whole bunch of movies back then in the 80s, and there was a lot more jingles and things like that they're only an hour. There's so I do quite a few things. Recently I've done a couple of movies, which I'm not allowed to talk about.
Oh, secrets.
Yeah.
Why do you like doing that kind of work?
Well, I get to play actually different things.
Yeah. I would think this kind of ties into my next question, but someone with your position, you don't have to take outside gigs if you don't want to. I would imagine it's because you want to, and it's something that you're interested in. And that always interests me too, because man, how do you even have the time? First of all, I feel like you're probably very busy, and you're still fitting this stuff in. So how do you decide what kind of makes the cut, what you're passionate about, that you do want to do?
Well, I usually say yes to that, because you kind of have to say yes if you want to remain, like if you want to keep being called. You can't really turn down a lot of that. You can't turn it down. You really have to make an effort to make it all work.
Yeah.
So, and I get to see a lot of different people too, which is nice. I see people that are outside of my world.
Right.
And I get to work with other people, and I like that.
Do you have any time management advice for fitting in a lot of different projects?
I don't. I'm not sure. Well, I think it's important to be disciplined about it, and I do my best practicing if I can get to it in the morning. Or if I can just get started in the morning. If I wait till 5 o'clock like today, and I won't get started until I get home, it's kind of hard to get something done. Oh wait, I take it back. I started working this morning, but I was busy with the air conditioner guy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you want to talk about or add?
No, I think that you covered a lot.
Good.
So thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And
likewise.
And I love the Flute Center. Plug. We love the Flute Center.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you all.
many feel that Mindy is a true New York treasure. She's been at the core of the New York Philharmonic flute section for decades and is actively involved in so many different projects within the flute community. She inspires me in her ability to not take anything for granted, for taking chances, and for creating a diverse and full life outside of her already busy schedule of concerts and performances. We're lucky to call her a friend here at Flute Center of New York and can't wait to see what adventure she takes on next. Thanks again to Mindy Kaufman for the interview. In this episode, she plays the Avner Dorman Piccolo Concerto, Iber's Pièce for solo flute, and Debussy Sonata for flute, viola, and harp. This has been an episode of Flute Unscripted. This podcast is sponsored by the Flute Center of New York. Visit our website at flutesforsale.com for the largest selection of new and pre-owned instruments. Remember to use this podcast promo code LISTEN for discounts on flutes and sheet music. Special thanks to our owner Phil Unger, the Flute Center team, and Stefan Haskoldsen for our theme music.